Well, hello there. You've just clicked on a Cosmonarchy video. Cosmonarchy is a pretty epic spin-off game of Starcraft 1, built in the original engine before the remaster, featuring 50 units per race. That's right, 50. And I'm not including structures in that count either. Also, we have a fourth race, but they're not in this video. So you're going to want to subscribe to this channel so that you get those updates where you get new videos that sometimes do feature the Ascozi. And eventually we're going to add a fifth race. And by eventually, I mean later this year. Welcome to the Protoco YouTube channel. Now, Aeod64 is in the bottom left as the Blood Protoss. And his opponent is... I'm not doing the name bit again. It's Grass Eater. You know him. You probably don't like the fact that he changes his name all the time, or maybe you do. And we are on a map called Oneiros. This is actually a port of Everdream in by Jujic. Everdream being a StarCraft 2 map, if you're not familiar with it. So this is going to be a fun one, for sure. It's actually the only StarCraft 2 map that hasn't made it to tournament quality play just yet. Maybe this game will tell us what's up. But I haven't cast judgment on it yet. It's in Class 0 in our testing pool. So if you want to play some 1v1s and let us know your thoughts in our maps channel, that would be a pretty cool way to let us know what's going on. You know, we got a Discord and Fluxer community, so you can pop in there at any point that you want and just have a good time. We have Aeod64 going to be going for his gateway into double Grand Library build. This is a fairly standard thing that Protosses do. But Aeod's actually up against Hydras, so I don't really know if this changes the calculus too much. Pool units versus Protoss do have a pretty specific kind of success story, right? They're really, really good at dealing with a lot of what the Protoss can throw at them. And this Legionnaire is particularly unlucky for Grass Eater because if it was a Zealot or a Dracodon or something like that that was coming out of that gateway instead, then that first unit wouldn't have gotten one across the map and got a kill, right? That just wouldn't have happened. But instead, it is going to be the Legionnaires, the Amaranths. He's massing up a number of units that he does seem to want to go for an early push. The Hierophant will definitely help out with that as well. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool to see. Some Zero cores are coming. We got a single Hydra hatching as we speak. Looks like the IZs are going to be the first units to move over. These units will clean up Legionnaires pretty nicely, but they will never kill an Amaranth. I don't care how many Zero cores you get. It's going to take like 40 IZs to kill an Amaranth. The Amaranth has shield sustain. When it attacks, it gains shields. So life steal, but shield steal, right? So pretty potent unit in that respect. Definitely something to keep in mind. We have a Herald coming out as well, and so this bad boy, every time a Protoss unit or an allied unit to the Herald in team games dies, then they speed up the other Protoss unit, so it's a really good engagement tool. Plus he also adds a little bit more shield sustain himself. And that was combined with the fact that the Hierophant was slowing him down whenever it attacked. So yeah, let's just say there's a lot to worry about here if you're in Grass's shoes. He's actually going for a fairly quick expansion. He's going to burrow his Hydras in the background here as we wait for the IZs to hatch to try to provide a bit more of a front line. Again, the Legionnaires, they should go down relatively easily here to the combined might of all the Zerg units. He's not really under too much duress, right? Because he's only got 2 Amaranths to deal with, and the Hydras will definitely help. And it does look like Aeod was sort of maybe baited in by that. He actually wants to try to stand and fight, and I really don't think that's a good move. But to his credit, he is staying alive a lot longer than you might have expected. I think mostly because that Herald took forever to go down. The right click there, just the focus fire wasn't quite there for Grass Eater. So now he's going to go ahead and clean up the Hierophant, clean up the Amaranth, and honestly, I'm a little bit puzzled why Aeod stayed for so long. I don't know if he was limit testing, but this, gateway into double Grand Library build, you can try to go for even more production structures, but as we see, the Nexus is coming, and so there's a horde of Hydras and IZs moving across the map right now. I don't know. This doesn't look very good. Also, this SimCity I feel like would mostly hurt Grass, because it's like right in the middle of his rally. Apparently he likes to put his tech node like right at the ramp though, so I don't know, it's probably helped him like hold on walls or whatever before. Nexus now under some duress. We'll see if the Hydras can finish the job there. Because I do feel like this is probably going to be held. More IZs coming in. I mean, IZs do provide a little bit of extra DPS. I guess, yeah, Aeod doesn't really have that much, huh? He's going to have to concede this Nexus, I think. We'll see if the Hydras can focus down individual targets here, because the Zealot is taking forever to go down, the Amaranths as well. And those IZs are eventually going to falter. Again, there's not really a lot of focused damage here from the Hydras. And the attack speed increase from the Hierophant means that the Amaranths are shield sustaining even more than they were before, right? So it's a double whammy for sure. But it still does look like the Hydras will be here to stay, to maybe pick that Herald off, yeah, and then they should be able to hightail it out of there. I guess the Hierophants are also slowing them down, and Grass Eater's not microing. He's busy back at home. He's got his ski back on the way, so he will have access to a little bit more of a longer range unit, but honestly, with all the armor that's coming out of Ayud 64, I really don't want to see Bactylisks from Grass Eater. I actually don't really see the utility of the ski back right now at all. Macro Hatch I like, but surely you don't go Bactyls here, right? I mean, Amaranths have so much armor. The Hierophant, okay, that's an easier target. But then you got to deal with the, you know, the Herald eventually, which also has more armor. I don't know, man. I don't know if I like that. Now, it looks like Grass wants to try to go for a cheeky expand at the same time. Low ground third base there with the Gas Ridge. So that is a full base. No mineral only here. There are more bases in here, which is interesting. The more gas is down there in the lower ground. Now, it does look like right about now, there's enough Hydras to focus down these Amaranths. Izzy's just trying to sort of draw the fire away from the Hydras. And yeah, you can see we've reached a critical mass that the Amaranths cannot shield sustain through it. And they didn't have, like, the Herald to boost their shield sustain or Ecclesias to give them shields back no matter what or anything like that. So definitely a bit on the struggle bus there as the Hydra count starts to balloon. I'm not sure that, you know, like, when Grass was in a little bit of trouble and then just kind of massed units, I really thought Ayud would just fall away in the early game. Is that the one mistake, you know? I mean, his Nexus is still alive, so it ain't the end of the world. Well, there's 12 Hydras and 6 Izzy's only. I feel like this should be holdable. We have the Charlatan on the way. That'll really multiply the damage. The Bactyls can deal with these Ecclesias that are coming out, the Charlatan that's coming out, and maybe also the Hierophants, but he's actually coming out at the perfect time, right? The Bactyls only just started. They're going to take a lot longer to finish. Yeah, he has to cancel those so those Hydras can actually fight. And this is where it can maybe turn a little bit in a negative way. The Ecclesias go down, the Hierophant's getting chewed through immediately, and that Charlatan will also falter here. More melee units trying to run in. A beautiful Psystorm that Grass Eater is not reacting to at all. And now he's going to try to right-click that Cantavis. Indeed, he will be successful. But at what cost? You know, the Amaranths are going to clean up all those Izzy's, and now the Hydras do have to get out of dodge. Still, the Zerg is in a really good spot. I mean, they have secured a third base. Both players floating a ton of money. In Grass Eater's case, it's a little bit easier for him to spend it all because he does have those larvae. 11 Droleths on the way. He's technically in a weird spot where he's finally starting to spike up in worker count. But it will be sometime. Yeah, I like Ayud's move here. Going for the expansion, just trying to tech up into more splash damage and grabbing that prostration stage. I guess it's a little bit less splash damage, right? He needs area denial. That's what the Psystorm is going to provide. That and a Cantor's could have been a really good choice. That's the Reaver equivalent. And so, you know, Brood Warheads are going to be right at home with those kinds of comparisons. But he's actually going to go for double Kabbalist here. So the Dark Templar equivalent of Cosmonarchy, which jumps when it's, so all units that are for the Protoss arsenal, when they attack, they decloak. So the Witness is permacloak, because it can't attack, it doesn't have a weapon. But if it were ever being able to give a weapon or whatever, it would decloak itself when it attacked. Anyway, the Kabbalist, while it's cloaked, its next strike is teleport equipped. It can teleport within 3 range to sort of gap close, and then it will also deal extra damage. And then, you know, it recloaks after 2 seconds of not attacking. So he kind of just A-moves right into it, but he's chunking down that Teth. And these bladed dudes are going to be pretty powerful for the Zerg army. I'm a little bit worried that we don't have enough damage to actually break them. But maybe that's what the Kabbalists are for. He's filtering in a lot of them. And he's not sending them on harassment squads either. These Kabbalists are very clearly intended to do damage. And maybe he thought he was going to be going up against Hierophants or something, or Ultra Cores. But it actually looks like, you know, the Zerg cores are being chunked down nicely. The Storm was beautiful in the backline as well. Now, these Zerg cores are going to eventually fall to the combined might of all of the Protoss army. The Cabal is still providing some good damage. But the Hydras are coming back, and here comes some Bactyls as well for that extra bounce attack. And hey, Ayud getting a little bit overwhelmed. Now he's choosing to fight around the static defense that he spent so much money on. But I feel like this is way too late, right? He doesn't actually have the resources that he needs. He caps the seed and he caps the gas right in front of him. Maybe giving him another target to go after or something. One of the Tetzoricors has fallen. He's just going to be massing up units behind this, but he is going to have to concede this base. Yeah, it looks like the pure ski-backed into Tethvith option here, the Hydra first and upgrading it all the way, has really given Grass Eater a leg up in this game. Now a Kabbalist starting to lose the base. I do feel like Grass Eater is much more scary as a player when he's being left alone to do whatever, right? He's up at 4 base right now, capping his ridge, you know, getting up there in terms of the economy. And he probably needs to put down some more macro hatches. He's expanding at the Aquifer Sedent base over here. Yeah, this is really, really dangerous for Aud64. I'm not entirely sure how he's going to navigate out of this. Avaleth here to try to catch any would-be aggressors. Yeah, really good props to Grass Eater, honestly. He even had the Avaleth out here. I mean, I know he's not, like, controlling every situation perfectly here, but he had another Avaleth at home so that he could defend stuff like this. And it looks like, you know, at most they're going to end up with, like, what, 5 kills between 2 Kabbalists. You can replenish that very easily, and he's still got a 30-worker lead. And obviously a 3 base lead once this base starts to actually give some benefits. Damn, Grass Eater's got kind of crazy with it if you let him off the hook in the early game. Got Parazets. He made a pool. That's so funny. He actually made a pool. Now, Aid's going to try to push out with the Pariahs. That's going to give him a lot of splash damage. He doesn't have any more Heralds, so there is no extra shield sustain for those Pariahs. But there's no armor rend on the Zerg side, so this could still cause some problems. The Barghests join as the first Pariah falls. It's going to add some more armor penetration to the Protoss army, but at the cost of everything else already falling, I don't think it's been enough. The Tetzoricor count really, really high. He's going to see if he can chunk through them, but this composition is much more about sustain. Now the Herald comes out, but it feels way too little, way too late, and he couldn't quite wall that ramp to give himself the optimum splash damage there from the Pariahs. You can see the Bactals are being busy trying to kill those road galleries and such, but the Pariahs are still falling, and Aud is going to have to concede. GG. Oh, a rather quick game on Oneiros there. But definitely an interesting one. It is a StarCraft 2 map, so you think about it like, oh, you can get to a lot of extra bases very quickly because that's what StarCraft 2 maps were all about. And they were a fairly compact layout, which does lead to interesting games. Maybe you could argue that if Zerg gets ahead, it's really hard to keep them from behind. But I think Aud had a lot more room to maybe send those Kabbalists out earlier. He just got really far behind when he lost most of his army in the early game, and then all he had behind it was 3 production, 2 of which are expensive and slow because they're Grand Libraries, Tier 2 production. So no real, like, throughput there to really get a lot of his units out. And he was expanding behind the attack, right? I feel like maybe he was trying to do too much. So a low light in that sense from our runners-up of Acropolis 4. I don't think that this will be the story of his games if he sticks with Protoss for the foreseeable future. I don't think, you know, Grass Eater is going to have a habit of killing him, but hey, we could be entering into an interesting era if Grass Eater starts to really turn up his play. So I guess we'll have to pay attention to some of his other games in the future. GG. We'll be back tomorrow with more Cosmonarchy.